January 1975. 12 terms to peace. January 1975 saw John Lennon release the single Number 9 Dream. In his lyrics he says, "Was it just a dream?" In Northern Ireland, a ceasefire allowed people to dream again, if only for a short while. Political developments in January 1975. January began with a meeting between British Prime Minister Harold Wilson and the leaders of the main churches in Northern Ireland on the 1st, following recent developments with meetings with the IRA and the subsequent ceasefire. A quote from the meeting read, "The Prime Minister said that he had been impressed by the earlier reference to children going out to parties again. Peace created its own dynamic. The church leaders had planted a fragile tree, which one might call a Christmas tree, in the desert of terrorism, and we must consider how this tree could be watered." The following day, the IRA announced an extension of its ceasefire. This stage of the ceasefire was to last until the 17th of January 1975. Secret talks were held between officials at the Northern Ireland office and representatives of the IRA, and these talks led to a truce between the IRA and the security forces. On the 7th of January, representatives of the Democratic Unionist Party held a meeting with Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Merlin Rees. However, the meeting broke up over arguments about the contacts between government officials and the IRA. Just 2 days later, a note was prepared for the British government which provided a summary of political events in Northern Ireland for the period 19th of December 1974 to the 9th of January 1975. This note was released to public records on the 1st of January 2006. It read, "The Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Mr. Merlin Rees, issued a statement following the announcement of the IRA ceasefire, saying that he had seen the churchmen 2 days previously at their own request." He went on, "The government has received from the churchmen what it understands to be the provisional IRA's proposals for a permanent ceasefire." The 16th of January saw the IRA announce that it would call off its ceasefire as of midnight on the 16th of January. When the ceasefire ended, Merlin Rees said that he would not be influenced by arguments supported by the bomb and the bullet. From documents released on the 1st of January 2006, one entitled "Terms for Bilateral Truce" appears to be a list of 12 terms required by the IRA before a bilateral truce would be entered into with the British government. The date of the document is uncertain, but may have been delivered to the British government sometime between the 17th of January 1975 and the 10th of February 1975. The 12 terms were: freedom of movement for all members of the Republican movement, a cessation of all harassment of the civilian population, a cessation of all raids on lands, homes and other buildings, a cessation of arrests of members of the Republican movement, an end to screening, photography and identity checks. Members of the Republican movement reserve the right to carry concealed short arms solely for the purpose of self-defense. No provocative displays of force by either side. No reintroduction of RUC and UDR into designated areas. Agreement of effective liaison system between British and Republican forces. A progressive withdrawal of troops to barracks to begin with the implementation of the bilateral truce. Confirmation that discussions between representatives of the Republican movement and HMG will continue towards securing a permanent ceasefire. In the event of any of these terms being violated, the Republican movement reserves the right of freedom of action. On the 20th of January, details of a meeting between Irish Prime Minister Liam Cosgrave and a British embassy official discussing the ongoing contacts between the British government and Provisional Sinn Féin. It read, "In general conversation, he, the Taoiseach, laid stress on the traumatic effect it would have throughout Ireland if the impression gained ground that we, the British government, were prepared to negotiate in any way with the Provisionals, in any of their manifestations. He expressed appreciation for the way we're keeping the Irish government in the picture." Another document released to the public was a letter from Chief Secretary to the Treasury Joel Barnett to Merlin Rees, dated the 20th of January 1974, about the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. The British government had decided to bail out the company by including Harland in its plans for the nationalisation of shipbuilding. It read, "I am perturbed at the latest news about Harland and Wolff's losses. The picture given in the submission is bad enough, but I understand that it is not the whole story, and that there are new indications that Harland's present and prospective losses may be significantly greater. The government has already put £80 million into this company since 1967. On the 30th of January, the Gardner Report, which examined measures to deal with terrorism within the context of human rights and civil liberties, was published. The report recommended that special category status for paramilitary prisoners should be ended. The report also recommended that detention without trial be maintained, but under the control of the Secretary of State. Shootings in January 1975. January 10th. The British Army shot and killed IRA volunteer John Francis Green, 27, in a shed on a farm in Tullinagere, near Castle Blaney in County Monaghan. January 19th. The IRA's Balcombe Street unit fired shots into 2 hotels. First the Carlton Tower Hotel was shot at, and then the Portman Hotel. 12 people were injured in total. January 20th. IRA volunteer Kevin Cohen, 28, was shot and killed by the British Army at Cassidy's Cross near Kinnorley in County Fermanagh. January 29th. The UDA shot and killed Catholic civilian Robert McCullough, 17, at the United Paper Merchants on Downshire Place in Belfast. January 31st. RUC officer George Coulter, 43, was shot and killed by an IRA sniper while on mobile patrol on Donamore Road in Dungannon, County Tyrone. Bombings in January 1975. January 19th. Civilian Patrick Toner, 7, was killed by an IRA booby trap bomb in a field near his home in Forkhill, County Armagh. January 21st. While driving along Victoria Street in Belfast, IRA volunteers John Kelly, 26, and John Stone, 23, were killed when the bomb they were transporting exploded prematurely. A series of bomb attacks across Belfast later ensued. January 23rd. The IRA placed a large time bomb at the Woodford Waterworks pumping station in North London. 3 people were injured in the explosion, and there was substantial damage. It's believed that it was the work of the Balcombe Street gang. January 24th. British soldier Thomas Lee, 32, died 8 months after being injured in an IRA bomb attack on Colin Ward Street off the Springfield Road in Belfast. He was wounded on the 5th of May 1974. January 26th. Air Cadet Edward Wilson, 16, was killed by an IRA booby-trap bomb at the Air Training Corps premises on Old Cave Hill Road in Belfast. January the 27th. The IRA planted 7 time bombs at locations across London. At 6:30 p.m., a bomb exploded at Jeeves, the military outfitters, in Old Bond Street. At 9:30 p.m., bombs exploded at the Mawson chemical plant in Ponders End and a disused gas works in Enfield. Only minimal damage was caused by these 2 bombs. 2 further bombs exploded in Kensington High Street and Victoria Street. 2 people were injured. A warning was given of a bomb in Putney High Street, and a British Army bomb disposal officer was able to defuse the device. A warning was also given for a bomb in Hampstead, and it was defused. The IRA also exploded a bomb in Manchester, which injured 26 people. Thank you for listening to this episode of Tales of the Troubles. If you liked it, please like and share with like-minded people. Stay tuned, click the follow button, and enable notifications so that you don't miss the next episode.